Welcome to Now and Xen. Today we have on Maddie Ashman. Hi, Maddie.
Hi.
So I get my friends sending me your Instagram and TikTok videos all the time. You're just blowing up social media and you have a wealth of instrumental knowledge behind you. I'm wondering, I have so many questions for you, but I think the first one might be, how long have you been making music?
Kind of forever. I remember writing my first song when I was 6, and so I feel like it's always been something I've done to different levels of success.
Would you say you have lots of influences in folk music?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's quite a range of influences, but I definitely grew up listening to a lot of Alanis Morissette, and I don't know if you probably wouldn't classify it as folk, but Taylor Swift and artists like that. But then, yeah, I think I've just always enjoyed the simplicity of one instrument and a voice, or maybe a couple of instruments, but acoustic instruments.
That makes sense because it seems like it informs your approach to songwriting. Lots of times I see the videos and you're playing one instrument and singing. So maybe the way you create a track might be to do that and then build other instruments around it and add. Would that be kind of your method?
I often like to get a structure down. Yeah. I think that's often I'll have like a section and I'll feel really excited about that. But then the next thing I'll always do is try and get a structure so there's a sense of time, even if it's just a load of gaps, because it makes me feel like I know where it begins and where it ends. And then it can change, but it just feels clearer in my head.
How many different instruments do you play?
I'd say my main things are guitar, cello, and piano. But then I do enjoy playing bass. I've played violin and double bass on my tracks, my own tracks, not for other people really. And I do have a saxophone, although I never really got very good at it, but it was fun to experiment with for a while, and maybe I'll get back into it.
It's funny that you mention that and not your voice because you have such a lovely voice as well.
Oh, I do. Yeah, of course I sing. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Um, I was wondering if you've listened to any contemporary classical music at all, just because a lot of the gestures in Otherworldly, like they kind of remind me of a blending of those two areas.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite contemporary classical, I guess, well, my favorite yeah, artist in that world at the moment would be Caroline Shaw. And then
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of Ben Johnston, a lot of Leo Brower, incredible, and Villa Lobos. And then also I've listened to a lot of Michael Harrison, Lamont Young, a lot of the people who tune pianos. And then, yeah, there's a whole range. I went through a phase of being really into Terry Riley and Lou Harrison. And there's some composers who I know personally now that I'm really excited about and find really inspiring too. The one who comes to mind is Ben Nabuto. His music's amazing.
oh
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, there's loads of that world. I think that probably influences my work.
Yeah, it's funny too because I feel that influence coming through as many of the composers who write in JI, I think bring particular aesthetics with them. What's your approach to realizing JI notes? Like, do you deal with the ratios and do you find those notes in various ways on your instruments? I'd love to know more about your setup.
I came to it through reading The Harmonic Experience. That was kind of the book that really transformed my way of making music. And so I basically learned to listen out for intervals and kind of do it as naturally as possible. Um, I know Mark Sabbath's been really great with that. There's loads of resources on his website that's really useful. And I also had a few lessons with Michael Harrison, and that was really helpful. Just kind of understanding tuning lattices and things. And so often it will sort of be that I'll either do it acoustically and sort of figure out my way there. And, every note can be a new reference note. And in that sense, there's an infinite amount of pitches, even if you only have memorized the quality of, a handful of intervals. And then occasionally I have experimented with equal division stuff, but I find that because there's less of like a direct natural relationship, I can get a bit lost. I'm a bit like, okay, I don't know where I am and I don't know how I ended up here. Whereas with just intonation, I like it because it's clear how I got there. But that's just me.
I find that a lot of people maybe even have the opposite reaction, but you're using just intonation to find something, and then you can use it to go to other areas, but equal temperament feels a bit finite and maybe a bit constrained.
Maybe. I think it's just there's a lot of unreleased music that I'm sitting on, but where I was really exploring, I guess, the feeling of different tuning, and I really feel it. And I think there's something really exciting about that there's that tuning can influence everything from the rhythm to the texture to, yeah. And I think that's where I find it really exciting.
Yeah, wonderful. It absolutely is a huge, exciting universe of new colors. I think in your Carol of the Bells cover, there was some shimmer that I heard. I don't know. This seems like the 2020s term for this, where you have like two notes that are right next to each other, but they're a microtone away. I mean, that's been around for a really long time, but I'd love to hear if you have any kind of specific approach to that, because I noticed you were using it in a way that seemed different than others.
I think, yeah, I like the word shimmer, to be fair. And yeah, I've seen people talk about it. I don't know if I'm going to say their names right, but Levy McLean has done videos on it, or Zia Arose.
Yeah.
But from a very like equal division perspective. One thing that I loved when I first got into just intonation was the fact that you could generate acoustical beating, and it could become a pulse for something else, and so the rhythm and the harmony were like one thing, and I used to find that really exciting. And I think the shimmer is basically an extension of that. It's just acoustical beating but somewhere else. And also, yeah, I think the way that I like to find it again is it would be through more of a just intonation route of, using two different versions of the same note, for example, in different contexts, and then they overlap, and that's the shimmer for me. And I think for me it represents that shift, and that's when I like the shimmer as well. It's representing this sort of flip into a new space. So I think I like to use shimmer in that sort of way. But I think it sounds really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Then oftentimes like the two notes that are a microtone apart might be like a comma, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How do you set up your keyboard to play just intonation? Do you tune that using scale files or anything?
Yeah, often, actually only recently Scala files, but actually like even just in Logic X Pro, you can just do it in the tuning settings if you're only using 12 notes. So that was the way I sort of got into it, because it meant I didn't need to get any plugins or anything. I just did it like that. And then now if I'm actually tuning a piano, I can just do it differently, as in like I don't have to do a Scala file. I can just do it with my ears. But currently I don't have a piano I can tune, but hopefully again soon.
So you also know how to tune physical pianos as well?
I'd say know how to is a stretch. I feel like I can do it. The hardest thing is then getting it back to equal temperament, because I feel like I can listen to it and know if it's right with just intonation. But then when it's equal temperament, I'm like, like I don't know if this doesn't like it's hard to know, but yeah, to some extent, I know how to, yeah.
Do you find the practice of tuning a piano meditative, even though it takes a really long time? Or do you wish it was over?
I find it a bit stressful because I'm often like pushing limits a little bit, probably too much. Yeah, and then it feels a bit dangerous. I haven't broken anything yet.
Right, you always hear the horror stories about strings snapping, and that's why I haven't tried anything yet.
Yeah, I haven't snapped any strings, so I feel like I'm in the clear for now.
Oh, that's good. I'd love to maybe gather some kind of summary of your microtonal approaches, because I know you play a lot of things in JI. We talked a little bit about your new song, Toffee, too. I actually played it in 22-tone equal temperament, and it seemed to work.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really fun. I think it doesn't sound as completely in tune as your version, but the movement all sounds correct. There is one little discrepancy. You have that one chord progression where you have a major chord, and then the next one, the root raises up so that it's almost like the third of a dominant seventh, or you could call it maybe a diminished seventh or something.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
like a diminished, yeah.
yeah, diminished. Okay, so that's how you're thinking of it. And then that next one, it would normally go up to a minor chord, but instead it goes to a major chord that's a major third lower from that root, so it's kind of like a
Yeah.
deceptive progression in that key. And then another minor third lower. And what that does is on that last chord, it makes the fifth a syntonic comma flatter, so that you hold that one, and then on the next one, you just start that process again, and then it's two flatter, and then three flatter by the end.
It was just like I was really, and again, there's lots of work I'm sat on, but something I've been really exploring is, yeah, juxtaposing pitch and intonation. So, as the chord sequence is getting higher and higher in pitch, but it's getting lower and lower in intonation.
Yeah.
And I find that really that feeling of like for the song as well, that was kind of about this two steps forward, one step back, kind of trying to make progress, move forward, but I'm also like shifting back, and I feel like so many life scenarios are like that. And so I was really excited to try and make that simulation in the music where like people could listen to it and have no idea that it's actually happening. But I feel like to some extent everyone's ears are kind of working over time because we're trying to figure it out. So yeah, I find that really exciting. The way I was thinking about it was the first chord, the seventh of the first chord, that seventh note becomes the reference pitch for then the next bass note. So then it shifts. That's where the shift happens, like on the first chord. There's like a little marimba that goes da, da, and then that note, the seventh, becomes the new reference, and then that repeats, and it almost repeats to get back to zero, but not quite. Sense, I mean.
I see.
Yeah.
Does that mean that let's say you've done, 4 chords and you do it 3 more times for a total of 16 chords? Does that very last chord, you're saying that very last chord isn't exactly the same as the very first one?
No, yeah. So I think it goes down. I think it's like it goes down 31 cents, 31 cents, 31 cents, and then 31 cents again, I guess. So whatever that math. I did do the math at the time I was making it, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh,
I'm not
neat.
gonna embarrass myself.
No, you're good. I actually listened to it in the car and figured out that it was drifting flat. And then I tried it with ensemble and I was like, oh, all the first chords are working. And then the last one, oh, wait a second. That's just a little bit off. So maybe we were
Yeah.
secretly doing the same thing analogously. I didn't know if you had actually done it so it cycled around perfectly instead of being off.
No, yeah, this was my intention. Well, in my like logically, this is what I was thinking at the time, and this is what I was trying to achieve. Because it's acoustic instruments, it was like my voice that I turned into a little organ and stuff. There is an element of discrepancy. So, but I kind of enjoy that too, I like the that, and it was a real challenge, and that it was the whole process was kind of funny because there was so much struggle in the process. And so many times I was like, why am I doing this? This is absolutely ridiculous. And it just sounds out of tune and it sounds bad. And then it would lock in and it would be so worth it. And I feel like that struggle really reflects the song in a way.
It's really quite the package. And I wish that more people would think about pitch drift not as just simply something to do, but something that has a reason. So you not only have a reason that's within the song, but you also have competing directions. And I think that speaks to how you'd like to have your expectations subverted in music.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess Toffee, I think, is kind of maybe different from your previous approaches, right? Because I heard this from someone, but I'm not sure how correct it is. In your other songs for Otherworldly, you have like a 12-tone equal tempered guitar, right? But 3 of the strings are tuned in just intonation, so it's 12 fretting there, but the open strings are different.
Yeah, the open strings have a just intonation tuning, a septimal just intonation tuning, and then and then I have the slide. So it's a sort of hybrid equal temperament just intonation, which I feel funny about, but at the same time, you've got to be practical about these instruments. And I enjoyed, even just that tiny bit of magic that those strings could add.
Yeah, really hands-on the way you do it, because I think there's a lot of people who are more into the theory end, but you've sort of modded existing tools to your advantage so you can get there quickly.
I'm just vibing.
Yeah, exactly.
I think everyone's process is so interesting because there's no like no one's ever taught how to do it. And I think that's really exciting that everyone finds their own approaches. And that also means within the microtonal world, everyone's music is so different.
Oh
And that's
yeah.
really exciting too, that it's like not it's not like, oh yeah, this is the sound of microtonal. It's like a whole universe in itself that is to be explored. So
Yeah.
I'm just one person in that world, but it's a very exciting world to be part of.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really radically individual. I was just wondering if you had any unique struggles with the guitar strings being tuned open microtonally. I personally got to play a requinto recently where the frets were all tuned to the harmonic series, so they just got smaller as they
Oh,
went up.
cool.
Yeah, it was great,
That's
but it
so
was
fun.
so hard finding any like, coherent scale that had just 5 or 6 notes in it because they're all tuned
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah, I did a piece that was used the first 46 partials from one note, and that was really fun and obviously involved more electronics for the keyboard and stuff.
Wow.
Um, and I really enjoyed finding chords within that, and it was really fascinating. And to me, it kind of ended up just sounding more like of it as if I was doing something in an equal division. But there was just this like ridiculous resonance that was kind of actually not that practical, but it was yeah, it was interesting.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a hobby of microtonalists to push the limits of the limit, the ratios and try and see how high they can get it in performance practice.
Mark Sabbath's Hexatone is really good for that. It's a software on Google that I like. That's how I got into that sort of world, and as in like partials and pushing up to the highest numbers I could because it's very intuitive on that site, and it kind of lays out more like a lumitone or something, which I enjoy.
Have you used extremely high number harmonics in your recent pop music at all?
Not so much in the pop side of things. I prefer like more at the moment. It's more like pitch drift, kind of set 12 note patterns that are in just intonation, and then it's sort of I haven't gone crazy with harmonics because I feel like there's so much to do with just a few anyway.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll get there.
Hey, yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of people watching you, so if you were to do that, I think a lot of people who didn't know that could be done would be like, "Whoa, this is so cool."
Well, there's lots coming at some point, but just figuring out
Yeah.
when. But yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask how different it felt to deal with the microtuning of Toffee than with the other songs, because I know that with those earlier ones, you had a setup that we have talked about a little bit where some of the strings are tuned off, it's septimally. Um, and then I think I saw a note about Toffee where you said you were using a 41 tone system. So is that like 41
Oh
tones of
yeah.
JI or yeah? What's your
That was only for the middle bit. So the choruses was more like I just thought about it by like as in a comma modulation and just did it like that and was thinking about it like that. And then there's like a section in the second verse. I kind of just used I wanted like a bit of ebb and flow, like moving into different places. So for that, I actually just used a 41 tone. I really like 41 tone for some reason, but it's a 41 tone septimal, like Pythagorean tuning. It's not quite equal division, it's slightly different. But yeah, and that's what I used. It's sort of like using just intonation, but a little bit less. I'm not like directly considering how I got there, because if I was, it would be a huge jump. But
right?
again, I'm enjoying that sort of flip flop of like, oh, I'm here, oh, I'm here, oh, I'm back here. But again, it sort of gets a bit diluted because there's so many strings and there's so many layers that I think it maybe gets lost. But if you really listen out for it, you can feel the like, yeah, shifts a tiny bit.
That second verse is the one where it changes key, right? Um, from like the beginning.
Mm, yeah, it starts different. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I also hear this little microtonal line in there, like with the synths. Like I think you're singing the word fall, and you hold an A minor chord, and then there's just like
Oh
this little
yeah.
yeah, this little synth part. You know which part I'm talking about.
That's where the 41 tone sort of comes in, and then there is a little like it's like a chord that's just been stretched a little bit. So there's like tiny ways, like some notes are just the tiniest bit higher, but not enough that it like it ruins it. And not like enough that you're like, wow, I feel a bit stretched, but not enough that it's like, wow, that sounds really dissonant. It's just you just feel a bit stretched.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying you took that figure and like you sort of used software to shrink it down and moved it by ear.
With this one, actually, I like the synth part was just on the piano, and I was like, I just put it on the piano, and then I was like, oh, what if the high notes were just that bit higher? And how does that feel? And that's how I got there with that bit actually. So that was less by ear. I think I'd struggle by ear to like sing a few of them just the tiniest bit higher without having a reference.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was a fun moment. Again, I was just sort of following the narrative of the words and playing with that, I guess.
Do you find that your cello playing is sometimes influenced by your guitar playing? I think sometimes in Toffee I was also listening and being like, is this cello or guitar?
Yeah, I enjoy that. I think they influence each other, yeah.
For sure. On your piano for Toffee, was it still 12 notes per octave, or do you deviate from 12 note per octave setups in your microtonal piano?
Sometimes, but not so much because I'm actually not that good with the whole Scala thing, basic with it. So I think that actually most of the time I just stick to 12 and make it work, and then I'll just make a new patch when I need it, which means if I'm playing it live, it has to change constantly. But if I'm just producing the track, then it's fine.
I've been doing a cheap thing in my DAW where if I have a setup and I have to change it, I will make a marker to jump me to a certain spot and then turn the volume for that synth up and the volume for the other one down. So like I just press like marker one and I go to where that synth is, which is very
Wow.
silly. But then it, requires me to have my computer next to me. So
Mm,
I'd be
it's all very silly,
curious.
isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'd be very curious to know how you do it instead.
I rely on a musical director who I gave him all of the stuff and we figured out the math again and he helped me program it in. So that was really helpful. His name's Nathan Cox and he's a wizard behind Ableton. So that was really helpful. Because producing it's one thing, but yeah, the live automation stuff was definitely hard. Or just trying to recreate the sound of like a real acoustic piano rather than a MIDI piano. It's kind of a whole thing as well.
So I guess then when you're talking about using Ableton, you're starting a session when you start performing, and then the track is about the right length, and if you all are playing correctly and it's synced along, then the automation changes work with what you're doing, essentially.
Yeah, it's a solo show at the moment and it's just a click. So from that
Yeah.
perspective, it's fine. I mean, for stuff like Otherworld, that's less of a problem,
Yeah.
obviously. But for the stuff that's shifting, then yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you listen to lots of music that has hocketing in it?
Not really. There isn't, I can't ever find much. Mira O'Reilly has some pockets, but couldn't ever find much. But I really like Meredith Monk. Before I heard of Meredith Monk, I was really excited about Hockets. And then I had this I did this residency with Nico Mooley and he said, you should listen to Meredith Monk. And I was like, oh, everything makes sense.
Yes.
Um,
She's wonderful. I got to see her live a few years ago. Um,
wow.
yeah. I'd love to send you some other hocketing material. I've been listening to some Toby Twining music and it's very similar. It also can be
Oh, really?
yeah, microtonal, rhythmically intense. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've heard of the name. I should listen. I'll write it down.
You would love Chrysalid Requiem. Thank you so much for answering so many of my questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I hope that was interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. And I'm also excited to see Ginol's thing that we are both in, the position and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should be good.
What are your plans for future albums, future music? I'm sure you've got tons.
Yeah, there's a lot that's pending. So very, very soon, hopefully, there's lots that's ready to come. So
Very cool.
I'm excited about that.
Yes, I'm excited too. Okay, great. Where are the places that people can hear your music?
Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple, all the platforms.
Yeah, cool.
I hope we speak again soon.
Yes, I would enjoy that too. And if you want to collaborate on anything musically crazy, I'm always down to play like a Lumitone or microtonal piano or something.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Now and Xen. If you'd like to check out the Stephen Weigel YouTube channel, there is also a cover of Maddie's iconic song Toffee, released on the same day as this episode, except we used 22-tone equal temperament. If you'd like to check out the podcast on iTunes and leave a review, spread the word, that would be much appreciated. We also have a Patreon account, Now and Xen, Microtonal transcriptions. A huge thanks to our patrons, our Xen Harmonic patrons, as well as our Xen Harmonic gods, June Daibates Kobashigawa, Naren Rattan, Adam Fries, Matthew Sheeran, Hector McGuffin, Leland O. Weigel, Amy Coleman, Joe Weigel, and Tina Harmon Carteau. We have many episodes coming up on Now and Xen, so we'll catch you next time, sometime in the near future. Also, on the Patreon account, you can suggest songs that you'd like to see covered on the Stephen Weigel channel, which is something that I feel like people don't use enough. So I just wanted to remind you about that. Thanks!